always lead with performance. I think that's got to be, especially early on in your career, that has to be the base of what you do, that has to be your personal brand.
We're here at the Clorox office in Bentonville, Arkansas with Murray Jenkins. Murray is the senior supply chain manager here at Clorox, and he's an executive MBA graduate from 2018.
That's correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So Murray, you have a really interesting story and career. Could you tell us a little bit about kind of what got you here and the path you took?
Sure. So I've been with Clorox for the better part of 10 years. And I was fortunate enough to start out in the supply chain leadership development program. So Clorox kind of has a 3-year rotation that really kind of focuses on breadth across the end-to-end supply chain.
Perfect.
So over my 10-year period, I've had experience in customer service, planning, manufacturing, and most recently, customer supply chain. So.
Okay, that's interesting. And so you started at Clorox as soon out of your undergraduate.
I did.
And went into this rotational program.
Yes.
Right, and you went through these different paths, and then you eventually decided to get your executive MBA.
I did.
Kind of tell us what led to that.
Yeah, so actually when I was at the Glad manufacturing plant that we have here locally in Rogers, there was an employee of mine that actually had gone through the program. So we spoke about the benefits, kind of the network that you build, and the desire to learn more, and that kind of spoke to me. So I decided to kind of take a look, go to a listening session, and here I am now.
Okay, so, and then you chose the supply chain track within the executive MBA.
Yes.
What made you think to do that?
Sure. So supply chain has always been an interest of mine, right? But if you think about today, it's really evolving as the consumer's needs change, and it's becoming more of a focal point in every business, right? And I thought that it was important to make sure that I continue to learn and stretch my knowledge so that I'm better prepared to be successful in the role that I'm in today.
Okay, so have you been in supply chain since you started in your 10 years, or did you kind of move more into it after your...
Yeah, so I've been in supply chain,
Okay.
right? So like kind of more customer service, logistics early on, manufacturing, but again, all my roles that I've had in my corporate career have been in supply chain.
Okay, so thinking back to your program at the U of A and the Walton College, your supply chain courses, what was any of it particularly insightful or helpful?
Sure, 2 things probably. So the content. I think the Walton program did a really good job of folding in real life, real world application. So things that I took from class, I have examples that I could take, I think about Professor Rimko and some of the things that he taught, the principles I could immediately take to my job and make an impact. And then also the network. So if you think about just the nature of Northwest Arkansas, you have a lot of people with, diversity in thought and background. And some of those, whether it's a project or just a class discussion, you've got a lot of perspectives that I think really help stretch the way that you think and what you might know.
Yeah, and we also have this, kind of diverse set of companies around here, obviously retail, transportation, but all these CPG manufacturing companies that were you able to create connections at other similar companies as Clorox and, maybe learn to, share kind of insights that way?
Absolutely. I think a highlight for me was going over to China for the global Immersion trip. And we did a project for a local company, and kind of my counterparts were in marketing and sales.
Okay.
And that's completely different than what I've done. And that really, 1, just stretched me outside of my comfort zone, being in a country I've never been. But 2, it really allowed me to learn, again, about the perspectives and understand that we might have the same problem, but how we solve for that is going to be a lot different. And stepping outside just the scope of supply chain, you realize, hey, what's really good for the total enterprise versus just me and my sandbox.
Yeah, and so much of supply chain is dependent on that integration, collaboration, coordination with all those other functions, within the company and across the company. So Murray, you've had 10 years here at Clorox and all in supply chain, and which has evolved over time. What do you see as really the biggest challenges today within the supply chain realm?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd say there's a few, right? 1 is speed to market. I think that when you look at the total end-to-end supply chain, the expectation is that we get it to that end goal a lot faster than we did before. And then you throw in the change of the pace of change, right? So if you think about that same project that we might have chartered, what used to take 2 years, we're going to have to condense in maybe half that time, right?
Okay.
All while keeping the same things that make us what we are today, which is quality, right? Which is, making sure the consumer delights in what we have. The other piece is probably just solving for the omni-channel. So thinking about, where we purchase, how we purchase, and how that impacts the supply chain. I think those are two things that, are high on my list.
Yeah, and I think that's a common thing across this supply chain landscape today, and so I'm glad you're working in it, and you're gonna make an impact there. So thinking about that and your role, what kind of skills do you think that we should be driving into our students and helping them develop?
Sure, curiosity, asking questions, right? So you're going to get the core concepts that are important to any supply chain, but I think more than ever now it's the cross-functional collaboration. So our students able to ask the right questions, follow up, and then adjust midstream. So everyone's got a plan, right? Until you get punched in the mouth or whatever that is. And I think being able to pivot and do it in a timely manner is really important.
So Murray, what advice would you give to students today, whether undergrad, MBA, executive MBA? What would be your main advice to them?
Two things, and it's advice that I got from a mentor of mine. One is always lead with performance. I think that's got to be, especially early on in your career, that has to be the base of what you do. That has to be your personal brand. A lot of times you put the cart before the horse, and you think about progressing in your career before you create that, established foundation of knowing your work is solid. Okay. The second is really stepping outside of the role that you do. So understanding the up and downstream effect of, why is the work even at your desk? Because that's going to cause you to think differently and probably work differently, right? And that's going to separate you and be a differentiator as you look to continue to move across the organization.
That's so important. That's important for me to hear.
Sure.
I'll take that advice.
Yeah, well, I took it,
heart,
so I tried.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So then, supply chain. What do you like about supply chain?
No day is the same, right? Again, for a lot of the challenges that might keep me up at night or what keep me in supply chain, I think that it's ever evolving. It's important, and I think it's interest to every major corporation today as we continue to evolve and how we service the consumer. So.
Okay, Murray, I know you're also involved in, and Clorox is involved in collaborating, working with our student club, WISE, the Women in Supply Chain Excellence, with Dr. Stephanie Thomas and the group there. Why do you guys feel that that's important?
Yeah, for several reasons, right? So we want people to know about some of the things that we have here in Northwest Arkansas, right? So, having a plan of almost 700 people, that's a great opportunity for students, for folks in the community to understand, hey, look, we're servicing the community with jobs, but we also do some pretty cool things in there, right? There's a lot more than making a trash bag than what meets the eye. We also, want to get a gauge for talent. Yeah. So we have a lot of opportunities for internships, full-time positions, and we think that that's a great avenue to make sure that people are aware and then potentially even find employment opportunities.
So Clorox, what can you tell me about Clorox and working here?
It's been a great company, right? So working here in the office is awesome, but I've worked across 3 different offices in the company and 2 different manufacturing sites, and I'd say that across the board, the people are just great. There's a lot of brands, so there's more than just bleach, right? And with that comes just a breadth of opportunity. So I've been fortunate across 10 years to do many roles and have many challenges that I think have kept me engaged, and it's why I'm here today.
And I can see that actually walking around here. So
Sure.
You can just see it kind of coming out of the culture and the interactions that in the short time that I've been here, hearing about the students going and visiting your plant. And so what you're describing seems to resonate to the external community. So it seems very genuine. Now, Murray, you're not just a supply chain manager, right? You're a person. So
Yes.
Tell me about outside of work. What do you, a podcast or a book,
Sure.
that you've enjoyed?
Sure. So I have 3 kids under 5. I have to say that.
Okay.
So that does keep me busy. That's where I spend a lot of my free time, and it's great, right?
Yep,
2 girls and a son. But as far as books, one that's really at the top of mind right now is the 80-20 Manager. Kind of managing a team here. Really what I want to do is be efficient with my time. And I think what I'm learning through that book is just how to prioritize, how to ask the right questions to make sure that I'm getting to the value-added work, and that the team as a whole is making sure that we're spending most of our time on the right things.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
Well, Murray, thank you so much for taking the time. Really enjoyed this.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.